Letting go isn't a sign of weakness. It's one of the strongest, most intelligent things you can do for yourself. We often think that in order to move on, we need closure, an apology, a resolution. But the truth is, you don't need to hate someone to outgrow them. You simply need to recognize when something or someone no longer aligns with who you're becoming. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop sacrificing your mental clarity, peace, and energy for someone who isn't meeting you halfway. This isn't about becoming numb. It's about becoming wise. You've probably been pouring so much into this relationship, your time, your energy, your loyalty, that you didn't even realize you were running on empty. And when your emotional cup is dry, no one is coming to refill it. That responsibility is yours. The first rule is this: identify what's actually draining you. So many people stay stuck in emotional loops because they don't take the time to ask themselves the hard questions. Why do I feel so depleted after I talk to them? Why do I keep shrinking to fit into their comfort zone? This is not about blaming others. This is about choosing to stop betraying yourself. Start tracking how your emotional state shifts around certain people. Who lights you up and who pulls you down? That pattern alone will tell you everything. You cannot heal or grow in environments that consistently exhaust you. The moment you start observing instead of absorbing, you start gaining clarity. Next, you've got to take your power back. You don't realize it, but you've probably been handing over your emotional energy day by day, little by little, hoping they'll finally see you, understand you, appreciate you. But here's the truth. Not everyone is capable of loving you in the way you deserve. That's not your fault. But it is your responsibility to reclaim your peace. Every time you choose silence over arguing, every time you walk away instead of pleading to be heard, you're not quitting. You're reclaiming your energy. Energy is currency. Stop spending it where it's not honored. Now, I know this is hard for a lot of people, but the third rule is this: create distance without guilt. You don't need to cut someone out with fire and rage. You can simply step back with calm and intention. Guilt often convinces us to stay longer than we should. It whispers that you're selfish, disloyal, or even heartless for choosing yourself. But that guilt? It's not real. It's just fear disguised as loyalty. Let it go. Emotional distance is not an act of cruelty. It's an act of clarity. If someone truly values you, they'll understand your boundaries. If they don't, then your distance will reveal their true colors faster than your presence ever could. Another rule that's non-negotiable: replace reaction with reflection. That's where real emotional strength is built. You don't have to attend every argument you're invited to. You don't have to respond to every message or defend your every move. The more you react, the more control you hand over. And I've seen firsthand, in high-pressure environments, in interrogations, in moments where emotional chaos reigned, the person who stays centered, who doesn't let the storm inside, is the one who holds the power. Reflection gives you that edge. Before you react, ask yourself, is this worth my energy? Is this helping or hurting my peace? When you pause, you reclaim authority over your emotions. You become unshakable. Finally, and maybe most importantly, you've got to start focusing forward. Stop rewriting the past in your head. Stop replaying the conversations, the what-ifs, the regrets. The rearview mirror is small for a reason. What's ahead of you is more important than what's behind you. You're not losing someone. You're finding yourself. And the version of you that is emerging, she's stronger, wiser, and more in tune with what she truly deserves. Start investing in that version. Build her. Pour into her. Let the vision of your future be louder than the echoes of your past. Because your peace, your healing, your power, none of it lives in the rear view. It lives in the bold, beautiful road ahead. Letting go of someone doesn't mean you're cold-hearted. It means you've finally chosen yourself. We're taught that holding on is noble, that staying loyal to pain proves our strength. But the truth is, knowing when to walk away is one of the most powerful decisions you'll ever make. You don't need to wait for betrayal or disaster to justify your exit. Sometimes, it's the quiet erosion of your spirit that tells you it's time. Emotional detachment isn't about shutting down your heart. It's about refusing to let it bleed for someone who doesn't see your value. You're not abandoning them. You're coming home to yourself. The first shift starts when you begin noticing what's draining you. When you feel exhausted, not physically, but emotionally, after dealing with someone, that's a sign. Not all pain screams. Sometimes it whispers, slowly. Pay attention to how you feel after the call, after the conversation, after you see their name pop up. That subtle tightness in your chest, that gut feeling, don't ignore it. Start getting honest. Stop excusing behavior that leaves you depleted. If you constantly have to explain your worth, beg to be understood, or carry the weight of every interaction, something is broken, and it's not you. Next, begin pulling your energy back in. For so long, you've been giving pieces of yourself away without noticing. Every time you overextend, over-apologize, or overstay, you chip away at your own peace. Now is the time to take that back. When you reclaim your emotional space, you stop allowing someone else to decide how you feel. That is real power. Your emotions don't belong in someone else's hands. They are yours. Guard them. Hold them like something sacred, because they are. Then comes the part that most people fear, creating space. But understand this, distance is not punishment. It's protection. You're not being dramatic or cruel by stepping back. You're being conscious. You can still care about someone and choose to love them from a distance. And that's not selfish. That's survival. Guilt will try to convince you that choosing peace means you've failed them, but you didn't fail them. You just stopped failing yourself. You don't need permission to set boundaries. You don't need applause for protecting your soul. Another essential piece is learning to observe, not absorb. It's time to stop reacting and start reflecting. Every trigger doesn't require a response. Silence is a form of strength. Detachment allows you to pause, to choose your response instead of handing over your emotions like a weapon to be used against you. In situations where tension runs high, the one who stays grounded holds the upper hand. That kind of stillness isn't weakness, it's presence, it's power. Finally, shift your gaze forward. The mind loves to loop, to replay every word, every scene, every regret. But your future cannot be built by replaying what already happened. Stop trying to fix a story that already ended. Begin imagining a new one. Let your energy follow your vision, not your history. Because everything you're looking for, peace, purpose, clarity, lives in the direction you're going, not where you've already been. Rule 1. Recognize what's draining you. Letting go of someone who once mattered to you isn't about bitterness, resentment, or hate. It's about clarity. It's about no longer tolerating emotional confusion disguised as connection. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is simply walk away without turning it into a war. Not because you don't care, but because you finally care enough about yourself. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. When a relationship, romantic, platonic, or even family, consistently leaves you feeling unheard, unseen, and undervalued, you have to ask, what am I actually holding on to here? Because holding on out of habit, guilt, or fear is not the same as holding on out of love. The first step in detachment is to notice what's costing you your peace, and that takes brutal honesty. Not surface-level thinking, but deep, internal clarity. Begin observing not just what they say, but how you feel around them. Are you constantly on edge? Do you feel like you're walking on emotional eggshells? Is your nervous system always activated, trying to anticipate their mood, their reaction, their silence? This is what emotional drain looks like. And the worst part is, it creeps in quietly. Not every draining person is loud and obvious. Sometimes it's the one you've normalized giving your everything to, even when they give you nothing real back. Recognizing the drain means acknowledging that your emotional well-being matters just as much as theirs, maybe even more, right now. Then it's time to pull your energy back. And I mean all of it. That energy you've been pouring into keeping the peace, chasing validation, second-guessing your gut, spinning your wheels trying to make sense of their mixed signals. Take it back. Every ounce. Emotional detachment isn't a shutdown. It's a reallocation. You're choosing to no longer invest in someone who keeps taking from a space they refuse to pour into. And that's a smart move, not a selfish one. You're not asking for too much. You're just finally realizing that begging for crumbs in the name of love is not what love is. Take back your attention, your time, your thoughts. All of that belongs to you now. Once you start reclaiming your space, create distance, emotionally, mentally, and even physically when needed. You don't owe anyone unlimited access to your heart just because you once cared for them. Let go of the guilt that says you're wrong for stepping away. Distance is a boundary, not a punishment. You don't have to cut ties with chaos using cruelty. You can do it with grace, clarity, and calm. The people meant for you won't be repelled by your boundaries, and the ones who were only there for what you gave them will show their true colors when you stop feeding the dynamic. But remember, emotional detachment is not about being ice cold. It's about emotional regulation. It's the ability to pause before reacting. You don't owe every situation your outrage. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is say nothing. Just breathe. Observe. Take the time to ask yourself, is this situation trying to teach me something or trigger me? When you learn to reflect before you respond, you hold your power differently. You're no longer someone's emotional puppet. You're the one in control now. And then, with all that awareness, choose to face forward. Let the past be what it was. Stop trying to rewrite it, replay it, or rescue it. You're not here to salvage someone who refuses to grow. You're here to build a future that reflects your worth. Everything ahead of you is new. Stop dragging the weight of who someone used to be into who you're trying to become. The road forward is where your healing lives. It's where your strength reveals itself, not in holding on, but in letting go with purpose. Rule 2. Reclaim your emotional energy. Reclaiming your emotional energy is not about becoming heartless. It's about becoming whole again. It's about recognizing how much of yourself you've scattered in places that don't respect you and gathering those pieces back one by one. You've been pouring your attention, your time, your love, and your loyalty into someone who doesn't know how to handle any of it with care. You've been making excuses for their absence, explaining away their silence, interpreting their inconsistency as mystery instead of misalignment. That stops now. Your energy is precious. It fuels your decisions, your discipline, your future. And if it's constantly being drained, how can you expect to grow, to lead, to rise? You can't move forward while emotionally bankrupt. That emotional overdraft, it's costing you your focus, your self-trust, and in many cases, your identity. You've become so used to checking on them, thinking about how they feel, wondering what you did wrong, replaying every moment in your mind. When do you ever stop and ask yourself what you need? Emotional energy isn't just about feelings. It's about attention. It's about what you allow to rent space in your mind. Every thought you give to someone who doesn't value you is an investment that doesn't pay you back. Every sleepless night, every anxious text, every moment you silence your truth to keep them comfortable, you're giving away power. And what's worse is they probably don't even notice. That's the hard truth. Some people don't realize how much you're doing to keep the connection alive because you've never stopped. But the moment you do, the silence will be deafening for them and freeing for you. Reclaiming that energy means stopping the internal cycle of self-blame. You've made their chaos your responsibility. You've made their withdrawal your fault. You've convinced yourself that if you were just a little more patient, a little less emotional, a little more quiet, maybe then they'd show up for you. But here's the truth. You can't shrink enough to make someone else feel big. You can't dim your light and expect it to warm both of you. If someone can't meet you where you are emotionally, you don't need to lower yourself. You need to stop lowering your standards. Reclaiming your emotional energy is an act of self-loyalty. It's reminding yourself that the love you're trying to get from them is the love you're capable of giving to yourself. That also means you have to stop performing. Stop pretending you're okay when you're not. Stop showing up with a smile when your spirit is breaking. Emotional detachment starts when you stop negotiating your truth. If you feel neglected, own that. If you feel drained, admit that. Stop trying to be the strong one who carries the whole relationship on your back. Strength isn't about carrying what's breaking you. It's about setting it down and walking away. Protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. And the moment you do, you'll start to feel different. More clear, more calm, more alive. You'll begin to notice how much more grounded you are when you stop obsessing over what someone else thinks and start focusing on how you feel. That's the shift. That's the return to yourself. Don't expect it to happen all at once. This is a process. Reclaiming energy is about choosing yourself moment by moment, saying no when you mean no, not replying when the conversation costs too much, letting go of the hope that they'll change and instead changing the way you show up for yourself. Little by little, you'll feel your energy return. You'll feel stronger, lighter, more in control. Because for the first time in a long time, you're no longer feeding a connection that starves you. You're feeding your own soul. That is the essence of emotional detachment. Not to stop feeling, but to stop giving away the parts of you that were never meant to be taken for granted. Rule 3. Create distance without guilt. Creating distance doesn't make you the villain. It makes you someone who finally decided to protect their peace instead of preserving a connection that's built on emotional strain. We live in a world that pressures us to keep showing up for people long after they've stopped showing up for us. We're taught to stay loyal no matter what, to keep the door open, to keep explaining, justifying, forgiving, but no one ever talks about the silent cost of that kind of loyalty. The emotional self-abandonment, the quiet resentment, the way your self-worth begins to erode, little by little, every time you tolerate something that chips away at your spirit. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't fighting harder, it's stepping back without apology. Distance is not cruelty, it's clarity. It's you drawing a line in the sand that says, I will no longer let your chaos seep into my calm. You're not punishing anyone by walking away, you're saving yourself. And the truth is, not everyone will understand that. They'll try to guilt you, label you as cold, accuse you of being too sensitive or dramatic. But none of that matters. You are not responsible for someone else's version of you. You are only responsible for honoring the version of you that is done tolerating emotional confusion. Letting someone go, without anger, without a final fight, without explaining yourself for the 100th time, takes more strength than holding on. It requires a level of self-trust that says, I know this isn't working, and I know I don't need to keep proving it. You don't need to broadcast your boundaries. You don't need to make a dramatic exit. You can detach with grace, you can create space with calm, and you can walk away with your dignity fully intact. That's power. That's what real control looks like. You're not cold for choosing space. You're wise. You're finally done compromising your emotional well-being just to keep the peace. Peace that was never real to begin with, because it only existed when you were the one doing all the emotional heavy lifting, the one avoiding the hard conversations, the one managing your tone so they wouldn't feel uncomfortable, the one downplaying your needs so theirs could take center stage. Creating distance isn't just physical, it's emotional, it's mental. It's you deciding that they no longer get unrestricted access to your heart, your thoughts, your energy. Not because you stopped caring, but because you started caring about yourself more. Stop waiting for someone to give you permission to take space. Stop believing that you owe them another explanation. You've already explained, you've already tried, and now you're allowed to leave that cycle behind. If someone was truly meant to stay in your life, they would meet you in the middle, not leave you hanging at the edge. Let distance be your filter. Watch what stays, watch what fades, and don't chase either. Because real connection doesn't require constant repair. It flows, it respects, it feels safe. Anything that constantly demands emotional negotiation is not connection. It's control disguised as care. Sometimes love means walking away. Sometimes the strongest boundary you'll ever set is silence. And no, not everyone will like it. But that's not your concern. You're not here to manage other people's comfort. You're here to honor your own growth. And growth often requires space. It requires you to loosen your grip, to create room for yourself to breathe, think, reset. You can't heal in the same environment that hurt you. And you can't flourish while staying small to maintain a relationship that only survives when you shrink. Create that distance, not out of hate, but out of love. Love for your peace. love for your sanity, love for the life you're trying to build. Rule 4. Replace reaction with reflection. You don't have to respond to everything. You don't have to defend yourself at every turn, explain your feelings on demand, or justify your silence to someone who refuses to understand you. There is power in the pause. There is strength in stepping back, not to shut down, but to tune in. When you stop reacting on impulse and start reflecting with purpose, everything shifts. The dynamic changes. The emotional power struggle ends because you've chosen to remove yourself from the game. That's what detachment looks like in real time. Not cold, not distant, but composed, grounded, and deeply self-aware. You stop dancing to the rhythm of someone else's chaos and start listening to your own stillness. People who lack emotional control will always try to trigger a reaction from you because your reaction gives them power. It tells them they've gotten under your skin, and for a while, you probably gave them that. You yelled, you cried, you explained, you tried to fix it, but that only kept the cycle alive, because reactions are fuel to people who thrive on drama, control, and confusion. When you begin to reflect instead of react, it's like cutting off their oxygen, and more importantly, it's like giving yourself permission to breathe, to sit with your own truth without rushing to defend it, to protect your peace without needing someone else's approval. Reflection is not avoidance, it's awareness. It's choosing to ask yourself, what am I actually feeling right now? What is this moment trying to teach me? Is this situation worth my energy, or is it simply triggering an old wound I haven't healed yet? That's real emotional intelligence. It's not about being passive. It's about being precise. It's about responding when it matters and letting silence speak when it doesn't. And silence, when it's intentional, is not weakness. It's strategy. It's restraint. It's you mastering your emotions instead of letting them master you. When you train yourself to respond from a calm, clear place, you shift the entire dynamic of every relationship you have. You become someone who's not easily pulled into unnecessary tension. You become someone who doesn't rise to every bait. And that doesn't mean you don't feel. It means you've learned that not every feeling requires a reaction. Some feelings need space, some need solitude, some need time. And when you give yourself that, you stop giving other people the ability to control your emotional landscape. This kind of self-control isn't built overnight. It takes discipline. It takes the willingness to sit in discomfort without rushing to fix it or numb it. It requires you to stop seeking validation in the middle of conflict. Because the truth is, most people aren't listening to understand. They're listening to respond, and you don't have to play into that. You can step back, reflect, and decide when, and if, it even needs your response. That's not indifference. That's leadership. Over yourself, over your reactions, over the emotional energy you're choosing to protect. Start noticing the moments when you're about to speak, just to soothe your own anxiety. Pause there, breathe. Give yourself the space to process, not perform. Not every argument is yours to fight. Not every message needs a reply. Sometimes the most powerful move you'll make is staying still. Because that stillness, when chosen with intention, is a declaration. It says, I know who I am. I don't need to prove it. I don't need to perform it. I simply need to protect it. And the more you do this, the more you'll find that reflection isn't about holding back. It's about standing tall, quietly, in your truth, while the noise around you fades. Rule 5, focus forward, not backward. There comes a moment when you have to make a decision, not out of anger, not out of hurt, but out of clarity. You stop looking behind you, stop revisiting old conversations in your head, stop trying to analyze where it all went wrong. That moment is when you shift from surviving to living. Focusing forward means you no longer let your mind be a prison for memories that no longer serve your growth. It means you don't stay anchored to what someone used to be or to what you hoped they would become. And that's not cruel, that's courage. It takes a powerful kind of self-respect to say, I'm done trying to edit the past. I'm building something new now. You can't rewrite the story that already happened. You can't go back and make them treat you better, love you deeper, show up when you needed them the most. And if you keep replaying it, hoping to find some magical detail that makes it all make sense, you'll stay stuck in the loop. The loop where you keep trying to heal through understanding, when in reality, healing happens through acceptance. And that's where forward focus begins. It's the internal shift from, "Why did this happen to me?" to, "What is this pushing me to become?" Pain can either paralyze you or propel you. You choose. And that choice comes down to where you let your thoughts live, behind you or ahead of you. There's a reason the windshield is bigger than the rearview mirror, because what's in front of you is more important than what's behind you. The past already taught you what it needed to. You've felt the lesson, probably more than once. Now it's time to redirect that emotional energy into something productive, into who you're becoming. Because if you're constantly dragging the emotional weight of someone who let you down into your next chapter, you'll never fully step into your potential. You deserve more than being the main character in a story that's already closed its last page. Start setting your eyes on what you want next. Start getting clear on the kind of people, environments, and energy you're willing to allow into your space. This is where your power lives, in your vision, in your direction, in your decision to no longer water dead roots. You're not walking away from something. You're walking towards something better. And better isn't just a new relationship or a new chapter. It's a new version of you, one that's no longer emotionally anchored to disappointment, one that doesn't keep opening old wounds, hoping they'll bleed into something meaningful. This version of you starts thinking differently, starts choosing differently, starts showing up differently because she's no longer trying to fix the unfixable. She's focused on creating what she actually deserves. And the people who want to be part of that story, they'll meet you there. You won't have to beg, explain, or shrink. You'll just be, and they'll see. Forward focus means you don't chase closure. You don't chase answers. You chase peace. You chase purpose. You let the silence answer the questions that words never could. And you trust that your future is far more worthy of your attention than anything or anyone who left you questioning your worth. The truth is, you won't move forward by staying emotionally parked in someone else's past behavior. You move forward by redirecting your mind, your heart, your habits, one thought at a time, one choice at a time. And it starts the moment you decide to stop waiting for what already ended to give you the green light to live again. You are the green light. The moment you decide to turn your back on what held you down is the same moment you begin to rise. Detaching doesn't mean you're cold. It means you're clear. Clear about who you are. Clear about what you deserve. Clear about what you're no longer willing to tolerate. You're not turning off your heart. You're turning up your self-respect. And that's a shift most people are afraid to make, because we're taught that love means staying, sacrificing, enduring. But love, real love, includes boundaries. Real love includes self-preservation. And sometimes the deepest form of love you'll ever show is the love you give yourself when you finally stop chasing what continues to deplete you. You don't need another explanation. You don't need closure that never comes. You don't need someone to validate your reasons for letting go. What you need is peace. And peace doesn't scream. Peace whispers. Peace shows up when you stop begging for clarity from someone who benefits from your confusion. Peace begins when you realize that healing doesn't come from fixing the other person. It comes from finally choosing you. You've done enough. You've given enough. You've waited long enough. And now, it's your turn to reclaim your power, not through resistance, but through release. Release the hope that they'll change. Release the expectation that they'll suddenly understand. Release the guilt that says walking away is wrong. No one gets to tell you how much pain is too much. You felt it, you carried it, and now you get to put it down. Not because you stopped caring, but because you care enough to stop suffering. There is nothing weak about detaching. There is nothing selfish about choosing yourself. And if anyone tries to convince you otherwise, it's because they were comfortable with your silence, your submission, your self-sacrifice. That ends now. You're not hard to love. You were just trying to be loved by someone who couldn't meet you where you needed to be met. And that's not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of their capacity. You don't have to shrink to be digestible. You don't have to break yourself into smaller pieces to fit inside someone else's comfort zone. So stop waiting. Stop waiting for the perfect moment, for the perfect reason, for the perfect goodbye. You already know what you need to do. Let go of what's holding you back so you can rise into what's waiting for you next. Your future is calling, but it can't get through when your mind is still tangled in what-ifs and almosts. That chapter has ended. And your job is not to keep reading it. Your job is to start writing the next one, with intention, with confidence, with boundaries that protect your light instead of dimming it. You owe no one an apology for your healing. You owe no one a seat in your life just because they once had one. Your peace is not up for negotiation. Your joy is not a reward to be earned by someone else. It's your birthright. And starting today, you act like it. Let them go, not because they're bad people, but because you're done abandoning yourself. Let them go, not to prove anything, but to preserve everything you fought so hard to rebuild. The most powerful version of you begins where the pain ends. And that line, you just drew it.